Good evening, everyone. It being 7 o'clock and a quorum present, I'm going to call this meeting of the Planning Board to order. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and signed into law on March 28, 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote and in-person participation. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so in person or via the Zoom meeting application. Information as to how to participate via Zoom is available on the town website. I'm going to start this evening with our administrative notes, beginning with minutes. We have minutes for December 3, 2025 and December 17, 2025. Any questions, comments from members of the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion as to either one or both of the minutes.
Motion to approve both minutes.
I have a motion to approve both December 3 and December 17th from Mr. Donaldson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Grandy. Any further discussion? Seeing none and all present, I'll call for a show of hands. All in favor? It is unanimous. Next on our agenda, we have covenants, plans, and releases. We have PB 654, Sheridan Home Builders, Inc., lot release for map 120, lots 4-5, 4-14, 4-15, 4-20, 4-22, 4-38, 4-39, 4-44, and 4-46, and 4-50. Any questions from members of the board? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a show of hands. All in favor? Unanimous. Next on our agenda, we have a Form A plan, A4909, 0 Center Hill Road, Mario A. Artiano, map 050, lots 004-005, to divide and create 2 lots. Any questions from members of the board? Mr. Mann.
I did notice in the sheet that I had access to what the frontage was. I think it's a minimum. Is it 200 feet in that zoning area? I couldn't see what the frontage was on the 2 lots on Center Hill Road, I guess. Do we know? I mean, isn't it the minimum 200 in that zoning area?
I'm just looking to access a copy of the plan, but I believe the lot you're referring to is not to be considered a buildable lot. Is it?
Well, regardless of its...
You're looking for the frontage. Let me just...
Yeah, because it doesn't matter if it's buildable or not. If it's...
Sure, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. I'm just looking for a copy of the plan. I'm having trouble
Okay.
with my computer, if you'll give me a moment. Thank you for your patience. That's correct. The minimum frontage would be 200 feet.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that's what it was.
Yes.
Thank you.
And just again, for anyone else's edification, confirmation as this board knows, our approval of any division of lots does not create an approval of buildability or zoning compliance. Any further questions? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. Actually, do we have a motion? I'll call for a motion. I don't recall if it's a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed or abstaining? Okay, I have four members in favor, one member abstaining, and the alternate also voting in favor. Next on our agenda is announcements. For announcements this evening of two. First, we have the comprehensive plan, formerly known as the master plan, the draft is now available for review by the public. It is available on the town's website. Go to the planning department page and you can take a look there. The town is still soliciting community input. We would like people's input regarding both the substance and the form of the plan to make sure that it reflects the interests of the entire community. Hopefully, we will have a final document for presentation to this board within the next 60 days. And I'll do a further update as we go later into our agenda. The other announcement is that the Old Colony Planning Council is doing a Route 80 corridor study where they are looking for information from the community regarding the condition of the roadway, traffic influx, and other improvement suggestions. The survey is available online at oldcolonyplanning.org. Are there any other announcements from members of the board? Seeing none, I will move to the first item on our agenda, which is the Cedarville Steering Committee appointments. This is an appointment for a vacancy expiring June of 2027. So we have someone who is left, and we have a vacancy available for a period of time. The three candidates we have are Joseph Asatadu, Michael Lasnik, and Carrie Wooten. Lauren.
We've just received notification from Carrie Wooten that she's withdrawn her application.
Okay, so we have two applicants. Are either of the applicants available here in person or on Zoom?
Mr. Michael Lasnik is available. I'll ask him to unmute himself and he can start his camera if he so
Okay.
chooses.
Hi, I cannot start my camera. I think unless you guys let me.
Okay, we'll work on that, but we can hear you.
Alright,
There we
I
go.
am. There you go. Okay, great. I'm here.
Great. Well, thank you very much for attending virtually this evening. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you're interested in serving on the steering committee?
Sure, absolutely. So we have a home on Island Pond, which is right between Great Herring Pond and Little Herring Pond. And it is, we spend half of the year there. I work up in Boston. I'm a CFO of a biofuels company. And I have my family is all around Cedarville and Sagamore Beach. And so I basically offering myself as a volunteer to be a part of the committee. I've got a lot of executive experience and would love to be able to offer that to the community. And that's basically it.
I'll turn it to the board for questions, but I'm going to start by asking the question that I think every member has, which is you are a part-time resident down here,
Yes.
but the committee does meet year-round, and
Yes.
it does not do virtual meetings. They've had problems in the past doing virtual because they are not located within a town facility and have regular access to the appropriate connection. So how is that going to work for you?
Yeah, I'm about 50 minutes away by car. I'm basically triangulating between Boston in Rhode Island and Providence, Rhode Island, and Plymouth. So it's very easy for me to make an appearance. In fact, my daughter is in school in Marion, so it's very close by. I'm all around the neighborhood all the time.
Okay, so it is your intention, though, to attend all of the meetings year-round, even though you're only here
Yes.
part-time as a full resident?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me turn it over to other members of the board for some questions then. I'll begin with Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Lasnik. One question for you. Have you attended any of the Cedarville Steering Committee meetings thus far?
I have not. I saw this as I guess I guess it's a solicitation or advertisement that came to my email, or it could have been by mail as well, because of, and so I saw that there was a vacancy, and I just wanted to do my civic duty and help out if I could.
I appreciate that. That's I certainly appreciate you stepping up or being willing to step up. I suppose I'm going to ask it anyway, but I think you've sort of answered my second question, is there anything that the Cedarville Steering Committee is doing that you would like them to perhaps modify, or something that they're not doing that you would like to see them be doing?
No, not at all. I am not familiar with what they're doing, but I would be happy. You know, my whole plan is to basically be, as part of the committee, be an advisor to the extent that I may have things to contribute. You know, I'm very familiar with you know, everything from the park to the you know, to the traffic, to the, you know, all the areas in the village, and so you know, whatever I can do. That was my idea, which is just if I can be of help and service and apply my know-how and expertise and knowledge, that's what I'm here for. But I don't have an opinion right now of what the committee is doing or not doing.
Okay, thank you, and thank you again for stepping up.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Mann.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Grandy.
Thank you for applying, and I don't have any questions. Mr. Bennett asked the ones I had listed down. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Donaldson.
Thank you for applying here. We appreciate your efforts to serve the community you're in. So my question is, what do you feel your role is on the board?
Yeah, so I would feel that my role would be to provide advice to the planning that happens from a point of view of my experience really has been up and down kind of all areas, so everything from development and real estate development to contract negotiation to economic analysis to you know, I've worked with regulatory bodies before as well, and so my role is that any area where there may be either a deficiency or an accent that might be needed, an extra set of eyes and ears, and where, you know, we don't necessarily always have to go out to outside professional help unless it's needed, that you've got an advisor on the board that may have a experience in a particular topic area that's being discussed. So.
And okay, so what do you think the committee's role is to the planning board, or do you have an understanding of what that is?
My understanding is that there's a advice that gets provided, that there may be a plan that needs to be, I suppose, put forward that wouldn't need to have approval or not. So I think the Cedarville Committee is composed of the residents and folks of interest that would have a say in because they have the local knowledge in terms of what may be needed, and to put forward the recommendation. Now, if I have that wrong, please let me know. And
I believe the chair could take over from here. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So the steering committees are advisory to the planning board with respect to, and the select board, with respect to matters that are referred to them, as well as in terms of providing reports to both of those bodies with respect to issues that are raised by the residents in the area. So the steering committees serve as a first-line area for voicing of concerns by residents. The steering committees can then either seek further information from the appropriate authorities, whether it be the planning board, the select board, or town bodies, and pass that information back to the residents. If it's an issue that they believe further action should be taken, they can report that to those bodies, or they can come and ask to present and make a presentation to express the concerns that are presented. But they are an advisory body with respect to what's put before them. With that in mind, is that something that you're interested in continuing to maintain? Because, as I said, they are one to report and convey information from the town and to the town, rather than a body that makes decisions.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. So I see my role as just stepping up and volunteering. If there's a vacancy and there's resources needed, I'm here to help.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Any further questions from members of the board? Okay, thank you. Do we have the other applicant? Oh, sorry, Mr. Grandy
So Kerry Wooten has
withdrawn.
withdrawn. And I
That's
have a
correct.
question when we get to Joseph Acetado. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. He's already a member of the Cedarville Steering Committee now, according to what's been sent to us. So why is he applying if he's already a member? It says right here in his professional experience, current member, Cedarville Steering Committee. Explain previous town experience, member of the committee for several years. Is that the case?
We are working on confirming that for you.
Okay.
The Cedarville Steering Committee is meeting tonight, a special meeting, I believe. So he may be engaged in that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I'm
Right.
confused as to why he would apply if he's already a member.
That was a question that, again, that I think everybody had, because that's what his application says. And the question was his, for some reason, did his position expire, or?
The document I'm seeing says expiration date, right, of May 2026, so we'll have to double check that with the town manager's office who receives the application.
So it's not his position that's up, it's another position?
Correct.
Because usually it's 3-year term, right, for the steering committees?
Correct, it is usually a 3-year term.
So if his is expiring in May of 2000, he hasn't even expired yet, maybe he's applying to continue, but his position hasn't even expired yet.
Agreed.
Correct.
Okay, so he's not on the committee, or he is, we
Yes.
don't know.
He is on the committee.
I believe he's on the committee.
He is on the committee.
Without being able to confirm this, I would request that the board table this matter to their next meeting, because I need to confirm with the select board member, the town manager's office member who processes the applications.
Okay, so for Mr. Lasnik, who was good enough to zoom in, I think because we have some confusion, and we just want to make
Yeah.
sure that we're not stepping on somebody or otherwise. We thank you for your application. We thank you. There will be a
And
motion
I'll
to.
just say if that other candidate is, if he's available and he wants to step up and there's some misunderstanding in terms of, I'm happy to take a step back if he'd like to step forward. It's totally up to, whatever you guys decide. I'm just sort of trying to do my civic duty here. If you need somebody, I'm here. And if,
We greatly
if there's no
appreciate that,
vacancies-
and that doesn't necessarily mean anything. We'll figure this out, but what I'm going to say to you is thank you for coming. You do not have to come again. If we table this to another day, you've already spoken. Oh, sorry. Deb.
Okay. Excellent.
We may have some clarification here.
Back in May of 2025, the application is good for 1 year. So that's why it's,
Why does he say he's an active member in his application?
I can't speak on his behalf, but that's what that is.
So we did receive an application from Mr. Acidadu from the town manager's office. The application is listed as he applied last May, and it has been sitting. The application will expire this May. It's unclear why his information lists that he's a current member of the committee. So again, I would request that you table this matter. We'll get to the bottom of this, and we'll circle back with you.
Okay. As we've opened this, I'll entertain a motion to table to, and not our next meeting, which is the joint meeting, but the meeting, our next full planning board meeting.
Motion made to continue to that date.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Grandy, a second from Mr. Manda. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for a show of hands. All in favor? Okay, so we will table this appointment to our next full meeting. And again, Mr. Lasnik, thank you very much. There's no need for you to attend that meeting, so depending on what happens, you'll get a communication from somebody telling you either that you've been appointed or you haven't been. But regardless, thank you for stepping up, and please continue to look to do so. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you're doing nothing, you can certainly attend the meeting also, if you'd like.
Of course. All right. Happy to help.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda this evening, we have a ZBA matter, 4198360 Cherry Street, TL Edwards. Special permit required per section 205-16 and use table to allow automobile filling station and convenience retail and services. And we are advisory to the ZBA on this matter. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Eric Shoemaker. I'm a professional engineer with McKenzie Engineering Group. I'm here with our project team. We have Mickey Higgins, who is a representative of the applicant. He's done a number of projects similar to this. I believe our traffic engineer should be on as well. If you guys could just raise your hands or unmute. So I'm going to walk everyone through the site plans. I've pulled that up here. So the site is located at 360 Cherry Street. I'm going to start with sheet ECP1. This is the existing conditions. So this is a result of an on-the-ground survey by McKenzie Engineering Group in August of 2025. The site's located at 360 Cherry Street, which is an existing parcel that's approximately 38 acres in size. For the purposes of this project, we'll be filing a A&R, a Form A plan, with the planning board in order to carve out a piece of about 5 acres for the development. I'll get into that later in the presentation. So as currently comprised, the parcel is a sand and gravel pit. It has an associated dirt travelway. There's some bituminous concrete parking here at center of the area, and there's several stockpiles. We're at the corner of Commerce Way and Cherry Street, just to orient yourself. This site is located in the Mixed Commerce zoning district and is situated in FEMA Zone X. A portion of the property is located in the DEP Zone 2, as well as the Aquifer Protection Overlay District for the town of Plymouth. No wetland resources were encountered during our survey. In general, the topography ranges from about elevation 195 at a pile located at the northwestern portion of the site down to about 167 on Commerce Way to the east. So there is a significant grade change. The majority of the parcel is flat, but when we encounter those sand piles, there is some grade change. Portions of runoff generally follow that pattern. The runoff is directed to the east or down to the south and captured by the Commerce Way and Cherry Street closed drainage systems. We're bordered by commercial properties to the north and to the east, Route 44 down to the south, and some undeveloped woodlands way off to the west. We conducted several test pits, shown by this symbol I'm hovering my cursor over. We did those for the purposes of stormwater design, and we had great results. We found the soils to be comprised of sand in both the subsoil and parent layers, and we dug down to about 10 to 12 feet in each location. You have a few more pits over here to the east. So moving on to the actual design, this is the site layout plan, sheet C1. We're requesting a special permit per section 205-16 and the use table to allow for a convenience store with gasoline filling station in the mixed commerce district. So our ultimate goal is to construct this gas station. It's going to have a drive-through to the rear and several pumps down closer to the frontage. We have several access areas to the development. So before we get into that, you'll see the land usage tables over here to the left. This shows the existing and proposed dimensional criteria of your zoning bylaw in this mixed commerce district. And we also have the parking calculations to support our design. So getting into the site, we have a proposed, it's about 1-story, 6,000 square foot convenience store building with gasoline filling station. We have a bituminous concrete parking area directly abutting it to the east, and several areas for parking to the north and south of the building. We have two-way access drives coming off of Cherry Street. These are 24 feet wide. And we have another two-way access drive off of Commerce Way down here to the south, also being 24 feet wide. We have a separate one-way driving entrance directly off of Commerce Way that's 20 feet. The navigation of the site is in excess of your requirement for two-way traffic. I believe we have generally 30 feet for two-way traffic around the pumps, and we have 12 gas pumps over here just east of the building. The drive-through itself is going to be 12 feet wide for the lane, and then we have a bypass lane that will be 20 feet in width. We have the loading area over here to the west, and trash collection down tucked into the corner of the site. So we included some access for pedestrians. We plan on placing cement concrete sidewalk with vertical granite curb along the intersection of Cherry Street and Commerce Way. This will allow pedestrians to access the site and stay out of the way of any vehicles coming into the property. We have several crosswalks for them to utilize. And up against the building itself, we have a 5-foot wide cement concrete sidewalk. There's a little patio dining area up here to the north that will be utilized as well. So that pretty much sums up the site layout plan. I'll move on to the grading and drainage. So our goal with the drainage design was to bring the site into compliance with the local and state stormwater management regulations. As I mentioned earlier, all runoff pretty much makes its way to Cherry Street or Commerce Way, with the exception of a small amount which heads off-site to the west. So there's no stormwater controls on site. Everything flows untreated into Cherry Street or Commerce Way. So we wanted to provide some means of treatment as well as infiltration. To do that, we analyzed a watershed area of about 5 acres, that takes into account the proposed property to be developed and our design points, which are Cherry Street, Commerce Way, and this property line to the west out of the view. It will be the rear property line for the development. So we analyzed the watershed, and we designed a drainage system consisting of a series of catch basins, pretreatment manholes, and subsurface infiltration systems to reduce the peak rates and volumes of runoff, attenuate the 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storm events, and provide treatment for TSS removal, recharge, water quality, and really bring the site up to compliance. So that being said, we have a comprehensive drainage report we submitted, and we are in compliance with all 10 of the stormwater management standards of the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook, as well as the standards of your Plymouth stormwater regulations. So we kept all of, you'll see on this plan, we have several catch basins. They route stormwater to the pretreatment unit before it gets infiltrated in the subsurface infiltration chambers. We used our soil test holes I mentioned earlier to design these chamber systems. We located all the chamber systems outside of the DEP Zone 2 and that Aquifer Protection Overlay District, with exception of the system over here to the west. That system to the west will only accept clean roof runoff from the roof here. Nothing from the parking lot will make its way into this system to the west, located in the Zone 2. So over here to the north, we have a subsurface infiltration system that has an overflow series of area drains. When this system exceeds its capacity in the 25-year storm event, it's going to flood naturally into its surcharge area, which is similar to an infiltration basin, and it will drain down into the natural sand soils. So we don't anticipate any issues with the drainage here. We got great results with the test pits, and we have plenty of area to design these systems. We located the pumps for the gasoline filling station as far away from the DEP Zone 2 as possible, and that we played with that design for a while, and we moved the gas station itself, the pumps, to provide some clearance from this Zone 2, while also making it accessible from both Cherry Street and Commerce Way. So moving on now to the utility plan. This is sheet C3. Utilities for the project are pretty simple. We'll have a water connection to the water main on Cherry Street. This will provide domestic water to the building. We also have a sewer service to provide sewer to the building from Cherry Street. And we have an electric, telephone, and cable underground conduits coming from Commerce Way, where they'll provide the least amount of conflict to the other utilities and infrastructure of the site. Lastly, we'll have all sorts of lines running to the gasoline filling station. At the moment, these are conceptual on my plan, but they'll be designed by the proper consultant and shown on a plan. We have a erosion and sediment control plan later in the set. This is, typical for projects like this. We have a stabilized construction entrance, some means of containment for any sort of dust or stormwater that's generated during construction. We have a erosion control barrier, silt sock, that wraps around the frontage, and just several areas designated for stockpiles. We'll work closely with the town of Plymouth, as always during construction, to make sure that the developer and the contractor are following all applicable regulations and keeping the site nice and clean, so no erosion or runoff enters either of the public ways next to the parcel. The landscape plan, sheet LA1, is a brief demonstration of what we anticipate the landscaping of the site to look like. It's going to be a vast improvement over what the parcel looks like now, being a sand pit with some, stockpiles and an expanse of bituminous concrete. We have a planting table up to the top of the plan and some surface treatments just to follow along. But in general, we have many different types of trees and shrubs from your, I believe there was a list on the Town of Plymouth website I used and referred to in design of these tree species. You know, we placed them wherever we could to provide some shade for the pavement, as well as, you know, really beautifying the area in the corner of town here where we think it's needed. We provided an emergency vehicle access plan just to show briefly that the ladder truck can navigate the site without issue. We have the Plymouth ladder truck, you know, entering the two-way entrance here and leaving the site, as well as, you know, wrapping around the bypass drive-through lane. And the last plan I'll speak to briefly is the subdivision plan. It was difficult for me to show the lot lines just based on the view of the plan, so this gives a good idea of what the proposed lot line will look like for that 5 acres that we're carving out of the 38-acre lot. So that's a quick rundown of the civil plans. We have a few consultants here tonight who might want to speak as well, so if there's anything they would like to add, we can continue the presentation and then answer any questions.
Please.
Thank you very much, Eric. For the record, my name is Daniel Lasivita. I'm a traffic engineer with Vanass & Associates. We're the traffic consultants of record for this project. If it would be the pleasure of the chair and pleasure of the board, I could give just kind of a hopefully relatively brief, high-level overview of the traffic study we prepared.
That would be fine.
All right. Eric, I don't know if you have my slides up. If not, I am more than happy to share.
We have them up somewhere. Let me find them here. Traffic. How does this look?
Perfect. All right. So as I discussed, I'm going to give a very high-level overview of the transportation impact assessment or traffic study that we prepared for the project. It was prepared in accordance with industry standards as well as to Mass DOT guidelines, and was done in conjunction with both the town of Plymouth as well as Kingston. You can jump to the next slide for me, please, Eric. So the study area that we assessed as a part of the assessment consisted of 3 signalized intersections, Cherry Street at Commerce Way, and then the 2 ramps to 44 down south on Commerce Way, as well as the unsignalized driveways to the Plymouth Hyundai, where we're proposing one of the full access driveways opposite, as well as the 3 unsignalized driveways to the Dunkin' Donuts and the mobile gas station across Commerce Way, as well as Prestige Way, which is opposite the mobile driveway on Cherry Street. We conducted traffic counts in October of 2025, which essentially formed the baseline with which we assessed the impact of the project. And in addition to traffic counts, we also reviewed motor vehicle crash data that was available for the study area intersections and roadways. And we found that all of these intersections were found to have below average crash rates, which indicates that there's no real identified safety deficiencies at any of these intersections. You can jump to the next slide. And I lost view of the slides, but if we're in the big, oh, there we go. This relatively large table is the proposed trip generation for the project. We used data published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or the ITE, who are the industry standard and kind of compile and publish trip generation data for a variety of land uses, including convenience stores with fueling facilities. So based on the proposed size of the convenience store as well as the number of gas pumps, we anticipate that the amount of traffic that goes into or out of the project site on any given day is going to be around 3,500 vehicle trips. And it's important to note that a vehicle trip is a one-way trip. So a vehicle that comes in, stops, gets gas, maybe grabs a drink or food at the convenience store and then leaves, counts as 2 trips. So 3,500 trips is about 1,800 vehicles. And the important thing to note about especially this kind of land use, a gas station with a convenience store, is that a significant amount of the traffic that we expect to enter and exit the site is what we call pass-by trips, which are essentially existing vehicles that are traveling along, in this case, either Cherry Street or Commerce Way, either going to work, coming home from work, going shopping down at Colony Place or what's left of Kingston Collection, and stops on their way to get gas. Based on the data published by the ITE, we expect around 75% of the traffic that goes in and out to consist of pass-by trips, leaving only about 25% to be new vehicles that traverse the study area intersections and roadways that are resulting from the construction of the project. So that traffic is quantified in the rightmost column of this table, column C. And this is the new traffic that we expect within the study area. So that equates to roughly 870 vehicle trips or 435 vehicles over the course of a whole day over the operational time period of the project, with about 70 to 80 peak hour vehicle trips, which once again are one-way trips. So 35 to 40 vehicles, new vehicles that will use the project site. Next slide, please, Eric. We then dispersed the new traffic associated with the project to the study area, as you can see here. It kind of disperses well as you go out from the site, with about 25% using Cherry Street, 35% getting onto 44, and then about 40% either going to or coming from south on Commerce Way towards Colony Place. And what we also did, which is not shown on this graphic, is kind of redistribute the existing traffic, particularly at the Cherry Street Commerce Way intersection, to accommodate for those pass-by trips that I mentioned. And then essentially what we did is we overlaid all the changes in traffic and the additional traffic to essentially create a no build and a build condition from which to assess what the impact of the project is on things as it relates to motorist delay or vehicle queuing. And essentially what we found is that given the significant amount of pass-by trips and the relatively low rate of new traffic to the area, we found that the study roadways as well as the signals that were under study have sufficient capacity to accommodate not only the new and additional traffic resulting from the construction of the project, but as well as the change in travel patterns resulting from the construction of the new driveways. And if you jump to the last slide real quick, this is just kind of a summary of the traffic study itself. I've talked about a lot of it. The kind of two last things I will add was as we looked at the proposed locations of the driveways, we found that the 3 driveways, the site distances there were either found to exceed or could be made to exceed the recommended minimums to function in a safe manner. There's some existing stockpiling of materials along the south side of Cherry Street that is slightly interfering with sightlines there, but to the extent that that can be kind of pulled back or shaved off. The topography of the road well exceeds the required minimum for a safe operation. And then the last thing that we did was essentially provide a series of recommendations, things as they relate to site access and circulation that informed the site plan that Eric presented before you tonight. And with that, I am more than happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Oh, actually, sorry. One other thing. We did have the benefit here of being able to, if you want to jump back to the trip generation slide, Eric, have the benefit of being able to look across the street at what is a relatively similar development, that being a gas station with a convenience store, just to kind of validate the numbers that we used in our study. And we did find that in general, that development generates similar or slightly more traffic than what we used in the study. However, I will note that there is also a car wash use to the south on that property that is not being proposed as a part of this one, which makes it essentially line up with the numbers that we used in the study here. And now with that, I will stop talking, and I am more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything further from the applicant?
I think that sums it up for the moment. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'll bring it to staff.
Thank you. This is a parcel that was actually just recently rezoned at the April 2025 town meeting. This was changed from light industrial to mixed commerce, so that is why you have this application before you, providing for a special permit opportunity for these uses. I will note that in the document that you received, there are some references to light industrial that we will update before that proceeds to the zoning board. I want to note that the town engineering department comments were received after this memo and packet was sent to this board, so we have received engineering comments. There are quite a list of things that the applicant is going to be asked to address, so I'm just flagging for the applicant that it would be in their interest to address as many of those as possible prior to proceeding to the zoning board if possible. And I also just wanted to note that the public health department did issue a letter stating in acknowledgement that there's a convenience store associated with this use. The town of Plymouth does not have any tobacco licenses available, so that this location would not be able to sell tobacco products. So with that, you've already gotten extensive site history for this property. This use seems to be appropriate for the commercial neighborhood and mixed commerce district. So the staff recommendation here for this board as an advisory report to the Zoning Board of Appeals is to recommend approval of the special permit. They've done a consideration of traffic and pedestrian and vehicular circulation on the site, are making improvements to that location, particularly with the pedestrian sidewalk. There are a couple of conditions that have been recommended for consideration. First of all, as noted already, to address the town engineering department comments. Sidewalks, particularly proposed within the public right-of-way, need to be approved by the Department of Public Works and the Engineering Division for, compliance with the ADA access. The applicant will need to clarify the plan for sale of tobacco products, knowing that the Board of Health has stated that there's no more licenses available for that use. And then, in addition, the parking table on the site plans will need to be revised to show the total number of employees per shift to satisfy the parking requirements of Section 203-7 for the automotive filling stations. That concludes our report. We'll turn it back to the board.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it to the board for questions. Start with Mr. Mand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to commend the initial presentation. Being not an engineer or something, that complex set of plans, you made it very clear what was going on there to me. And to a large extent, reassured me about my main concerns. I wanted to quickly ask a question of Lauren. There's no A&R for this, so wouldn't it be normal for the A&R to proceed something like this going back to do an A&R after you have a plan that you're reviewing.
Sometimes that does proceed this way. They need to make sure that they're allowed to proceed under the special permit use that they have. And then oftentimes we actually have an A&R plan that follows as a portion of that.
Okay, thank you. As I was saying, I was impressed with the clarity of your presentation, especially as it addressed what I think are some of the main issues here relative to the Aquifer Protection District. Falling within this, even a portion within the two, trips a lot of levers, and I can't say specifically what requirements happen just because of that, but there are potentially a lot of them. So, but you addressed a lot of the stormwater and recharge requirements, especially on-site recharge, which is really important in a situation like that. And I found that, again, very reassuring. One of the things I'm not sure if gets triggered, you have hazardous materials and or oil, gasoline storage on site, so I'm wondering if there's, within this complex plan, secondary containment for the storage that's supposed to, I believe, 110% of capacity. Is that included in this?
I think Mickey Higgins, who is our convenience store consultant, can speak a little bit to the tanks.
Yes, this is Mickey Higgins. I'm the principal of a company named South Coast Development, and we specialize in the design, permitting, and construction of gasoline service stations and convenience stores. And the Edwards family has retained my firm to ensure that they get a first-class facility. And if anybody knows Terry Edwards or the Edwards family, I think it's safe to say pretty much everything they do is first class. To answer your question specifically, the entire fuel dispensing system, both tanks, product lines to the dispensers, and dispenser sumps beneath each dispenser will all be double wall, secondary containment with electronic monitoring. So the answer to your question is yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if these other triggers for special permits are in place, but one of them suggests that if certain things are in place in these conditions in this district, that monitoring wells and groundwater sampling are a normal ask or requirement. Maybe the same individual could respond to that.
The way the tanks and dispensers are currently laid out, they're outside of the aquifer. There's no storage or gasoline operation or gasoline dispensing that's actually taking place inside the aquifer. We're actually outside the aquifer. In the layout and the canopy location and the tank location was chosen to keep everything outside of the aquifer. If we were inside the aquifer, I think that would trigger the monitoring that you speak of, but since we're outside, it would not be a condition unless somebody added that condition.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's a 5-acre lot with a lot of gas pumps and oil storage, gas storage, and other things like that. So, though it's just outside the 2, it's in the 3, I believe. Then even in that instance, and I would hope to see closer monitoring in that area, especially given the history of that site and its use over decades, I believe. Anyway, thank you. That's my only questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mand. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few questions here regarding sidewalks and crosswalks. I'd like to see a crosswalk on the south side of the convenience store over to that parking. The people there should have a safe place to cross to get to the convenience store.
Across the drive-through area.
Yes, across the driving, yeah, from that parking area. The crosswalk, the sidewalk that you have along Commerce Way, and I was wondering if you considered having that run across the full property, because I know you have it stopped to connect to that east-west crosswalk. And I don't know that there's a lot of pedestrian traffic in that area, but I think across the street, they have sidewalks, along that property.
Our reasoning with that was, yeah, exactly, that there's no sidewalk on that side of the street, so we would be, dead-ending it. So we provided it basically to our roadway and our extent of disturbance.
Yeah, because we don't know what's going to happen to the south of this property in the future. Okay, next thing is the plans that you're showing for all the detail don't show the final, looks like 100 feet to the west. So I don't know what you have, planned there for landscape or anything else planned. I also noticed that there's the future future development access point. So I don't know, are there plans for other developments on the 5-acre property?
I can't speak for the applicant on future plans. They wanted to give themselves basically an option to do that. So just dedicate some area and leave some infrastructure out of that just in case. The question about the extent of development to the west is best illustrated on the grading and drainage plan. Our grading design, this is a proposed 171 contour just to kind of remediate the grades here. And that's the extent of our disturbance over here to the west. So when we zoom out and we show the subdivision plan here, all of the area beyond that grading to the west, the site will remain as is. We're not going to touch it.
Okay, so there's no issue with drainage from that portion of the site?
No, when we analyzed the watershed, we made sure that anything that goes to this rear property line, the peak rates and volumes are less than the existing conditions. So it should be a betterment for drainage.
Okay, are there EV charging stations? I didn't see those.
At this time, I don't think any are proposed. There's no proposed.
Okay, I don't know whether they're required or not, but they seem to be at most filling stations these days. Another question is the pump island canopy roof. I don't see an elevation or any indication of what that's going to look like.
So I think Mickey can give a general idea for that. What I showed was a placeholder at the moment. An architect or appropriate consultant will follow up with that design, prior to a building permit.
Okay, because personally, I like the design of the convenience store, and it'd be interesting to see how the canopy either responds to that or what that relationship's about. And those are the questions I have. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Grandy.
Thank you. Through the chair, I have a couple of questions and comments. First to staff. The engineering report was sent just today.
No, it was sent on, let me look at the calendar. I believe it was sent on Friday, which was after you had received your packets.
Right. So how many items are on the engineer's report?
Let me pull that up. There are 5 general comments, 12 drainage comments, 4 transportation comments, 12 water and sewer comments, which is why I referenced that it is a substantial list. And in the interest of the applicant to rectify some of these comments prior to their formal hearing with the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Most of the time, or as much as we possibly can, the planning board would like to see that information before we have our advisory report to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I, for one, would love to have seen it. And the response from the proponent answering those questions that they were going to meet all those requirements. So that's just one question and point that I have. I see the dark sky bylaw is referenced, so that's good. And I had mentioned in my notes, the electrical charging stations, and Plymouth doesn't require them, but some towns do. When you put in a commercial building or a facility, a convenience store, some places do mandate, at least you put the infrastructure under the ground to a potential future location. And I think Hingham happens to be one of those towns that requires that. So it might be something that you want to think about as far as, or moving toward electric cars and solar and the whole nine yards. It's just a thought. It's not required, but I did write it down. Signage you'll do with the building department. Dumpster closure, I noted, but I found that, you're going to have that enclosed with fencing.
Yes.
Site drainage you addressed. I would like to see a little more signage as far as the stop signs and do not enter, like that right turn only in off of Route 80, coming back out. I think we need to do some enhanced pavement markings in that particular area, because I know, and I've seen it, people are going to come out of there and try to take a left out of there or a right out of there, and it's going to happen unless it's clearly defined and ensure that that can't happen.
So this area right here.
Right, because you're taking a right only in. You don't want anybody
Yeah.
going out of that.
Yeah, that's a
I
great
wouldn't want
point.
anybody going out of that.
Maybe
Very
I move-
familiar with the area, so.
Maybe I move these, two-way symbols closer, just to delineate some lanes.
And maybe a sign, do not enter on both sides, not just on one in
Yep.
that particular location. And one of the other members here also mentioned additional striping for walkways from the parking areas, which I had written down also. I also would like to see, I'm going to ask you the question as far as bollards are concerned, especially at the back of the building where the walk-in cooler and freezer is, and you got a lot of traffic coming around to the back of the building as far as the drive-through is concerned, so I would kind of like to see that protected with a bollard of some type. And then at the front entrance, we all know, and we've seen on TV, when vehicles come straight in toward the building, especially at the entrance, at that double entrance door, I think there should be some quite nicely designed bollards to protect the people that are walking in and out of that store from that potentially happening. As a matter of fact, is that in the parking? You have parking spots right in front of that entrance, right, currently?
That's correct, yeah, with the curb.
If it was hashed out, no parking, it may be a whole different story, but you're using it as a parking spot when you enter the building. So I'd like to see the people entering and exiting protected in some way, shape, or form at the front of the building at your entrance. Sidewalks along Commerce Way, obviously, you got to go through the engineering department, DPW, and everybody to make sure they meet their requirements. And I agree with Mr. Mann as far as a monitoring well or wells would be my suggestion, to cover the area, just to monitor it, just in case something happens, to ensure something doesn't happen. And with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor.
sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Donaldson.
I don't even know if I can say anything after everybody else. The only thing that I did that didn't come up that I had was, and maybe I missed it, don't see anything for snow removal or snow storage. Is it on the plan?
So we have, I don't think we show them. We have a, expansive landscape area for snow removal. So I imagine they'll, plow snow to the perimeter of the parking area as needed. And then any snow that cannot be stored on site will be hauled off to a snow storage facility at the cost of the applicant.
And I was pretty sure Mr. Grandy was going to ask and cover that one, but I guess he's slipping today. And with the vegetation and the landscaping, I know you said you looked at the plan for Plymouth, but it is going to be native plants and vegetation.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have the reference at the top of my head when I was presenting, but I believe non-native species,
I don't need a whole plant list. I just want to make sure that that's being considered.
yeah, it's drought tolerant and native species, I believe. I worked with the town in designing this. I found a list
Okay.
of plants to use.
And I believe you had one more question. So we have, in my opinion, almost the exact same thing going across the street that's happening, that is across the street. And the only difference is that for this site, there won't be a car wash, is that correct?
I believe it's a similar use across the street. I can't speak for their development, but as I understand it, is a gas station with car wash and drive-through.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. Mr. Bennett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the advantage of going last is that most of the questions have been asked at this point. And I do want to echo that without the town engineer's review, but given Ms. Lynn's enumeration of the various conditions that our town engineer has come up with, I think you've got some work to do. I've dealt with the engineering department's requirements before. They're very thorough. And of course, I'm sure you know, Plymouth, we have our own stormwater standards manual, which I'm sure that your design, if it doesn't already by the time the town engineer gets through with you, it will comply with. But lacking that report, I just had a few questions on the grading myself. Number one is, so partly in keeping with Mr. Mann's concerns and Mr. Grandy's about the Aquifer Protection District, I'm seeing that the northernmost pump is bottom of curb is elevation 170.05, and your catch basin over to the northwest, I guess it is, that is in the groundwater protection district. The elevation of the rim of the catch basin is in there 168.50. So that tells me the water flows from that pump into the groundwater protection district and into that catch basin. Am I correct?
Yeah, there'll obviously be a canopy over these pump areas, so we don't anticipate any natural rain runoff to hit those cement concrete pads underneath. But the grading does direct the bituminous concrete pavement to that catch basin at the northwest, as you noted.
And is that any sort of special? And what I'm thinking of is, okay, somebody drives off with the hose hanging out of their tank, and the gasoline spews on the ground. And I know that you have, and it looks like what you have drawn here is the grooved concrete that intercepts some of the surface runoff or surface gasoline, if you will. What happens if there is a significant spill there? Does the catch basins have any sort of preemptive treatment? Does it get into the groundwater, the leaching facility? How does that work?
So we do have a pre-treatment manhole, which is designed, for standard TSS removal and to remove any contaminants before entering the water course. What I do need to review with my team, and after seeing it in the review memo, is I believe the phrase was some sort of valve for shut-off or containment of drainage. I'll be going back and reviewing the feasibility and costs for that with the applicant. So I did remember seeing that in the letter, which is why I bring it up. But the constraint for this project, as you know, was really the Zone 2 and trying to fit everything we could outside of the Zone 2 while having as much drainage as possible away from that area.
I think you did a good job with it, and certainly meeting the letter of the requirement. Of course, the spirit is, how does it actually function? It caught my eye that, okay, we have a grade pitched into the groundwater.
Yeah, understood.
District. So the other question I had on the drainage, just to satisfy my curiosity, is the infiltration chambers at the south end. And I think you had mentioned they managed the 25-year storm. I don't see an overflow of any sort. I may be missing it. Can you?
Yeah, so all drainage systems here are designed to the 100-year storm event. Okay. And, having that nice medium coarse sand that allowed us a greater infiltration rate than you would find with, some type of soil material with loam in it. With that infiltration rate, it allows us to really minimize the size of the system because the natural soils are sucking up that groundwater faster. Mm-hmm. So I love projects like this because I didn't need an overflow connection. I could infiltrate it all into the site.
Right. And I think any overflow would probably percolate into the surface ground into the, I'm guessing your test holes, I didn't look at your logs, I'm guessing nice carved coarse sand out there.
Yes, yep.
Pretty valuable stuff, I hear. The other questions I had were, chambers, I don't see, I'm going to stay on the site for a second. So on the canopy, I just want to pile on that with, we certainly would like to have seen a mock-up or a plan view or something of that. Hopefully something that matches which I think the roof line of the existing building, to me, looks pretty good, well broken up. We're not just looking at a box. And I would hope that the canopy would have a pitched roof as well, not just the flat top.
Okay.
That I think is certainly more appealing in my mind. And then the only other question I had was, how do your driveways, both of them on Commerce Way, how do they interact with the driveways to the Hafner Mobile across the street? As we all know, that's a fairly busy spot, and it's a good place for crossing interference, somebody from the other side taking a left and somebody on your side taking a left and just, getting in each other's way. Perhaps, I don't know if it's your traffic engineer that wants to speak to that somewhat. I know he did mention site distances work quite well there, but I wondered if the location of the driveways directly across from each other, because I can't see from the plan, are your driveways directly across from there? Do they match up? Are they offset or what?
So I'll let the traffic engineer add to that one. What I can offer is, luckily I had it shown on our cover sheet here.
Okay.
We have a quick Google Earth image, so you can see roughly how it aligns with our proposed driveway, and that's this first cover sheet. So is there anything we want to add?
The only thing I will add is that I will say the driveways are aligned very well, so kudos to Eric and his team there. As you can see from Eric's plan here, that north or plan east, which is the entrance only, which is set up to be channelized and really be a right turn entrance only, is generally opposite those two of the driveways to the mobile. And with that being a entrance only driveway, we essentially avoid the conflicts of if the people from both sides of the roadway are trying to take lefts out at the same time. And then the southernmost driveway is well past both of the mobile driveways, and it is generally opposite another existing curb cut down there, which is where we'd be looking to see driveways at existing intersections, essentially. And as was noted by the member of the board, site distances here, Commerce Way is pretty straight, pretty flat, and there's no obstructions as it relates to site distances either along the roadway or coming out from the driveways.
Thank you. Yes, I honestly, I think that the right turn only driveway was a stroke of genius. I think that will certainly help quite a bit. And my last question is, I don't see, and I may have missed it, any details on signage as far as pylon signs, advertising type signs.
I don't believe we provide details for pylon signs specifically for the development yet. What I can offer is we have a general detail for things of, stop signs, handicap parking, and, just the standard, spec for that. As far as signs advertising the development, I think they're conceptual in nature at this point. So we provided some anticipated locations, but we don't have figures showing them.
Ms. Lind, I think, will they be coming back to us with the signage?
Yes, that will require a special permit. So you've seen in the past a master signage plan for certain uses. Sometimes they file in conjunction with their special permit for the use, but in other scenarios, they come for their use and then come back for the special permit for the signage plan.
Okay. I'm sure we'd be eager to see that. My other comment is I think that's a nice set of plans. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. So I think it's pretty clear with projects like this that there are really two concerns that this board always has. The first, of course, being the runoff, where the drainage goes, how that impacts the environment. We are talking about VOCs, and that's a concern. Secondly, of course, circulation. We worry about these because gas pumps are notorious with people going in multiple directions, and then you add a drive-through around. It's always a challenge. So without having the engineering in front of us to really go through and truly dig into what their thoughts were regarding the drainage, it's a challenge. It's wonderful that this board has such great expertise, particularly people such as Mr. Grandy and Mr. Bennett, who do this for a living and can provide a greater analysis than we would otherwise have from just a basic site plan. But those engineering determinations would be helpful. Not your fault that we don't have them, but we don't have them. That makes it a challenge. So then we look at the circulation issues. One of the things that we're always worried about is sight lines. And it's hard to assess sight lines when we don't have an elevation showing pumps. We don't know what the pumps look like. We don't know what your canopies look like. That's going to affect all sorts of directional, and that's a challenge to give an honest and straightforward opinion or guidance to you when we just don't see it. So I'll just have to say that absent that, I have nothing that I can really add other than I think my fellow board members have done a wonderful job outlining some of the concerns that we have, particularly the idea of some measure of monitoring. It's wonderful that you have the systems in place, the electronic that will be there, but we all know that nothing is foolproof, and even if the monitoring is there and shows that there's a problem, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to stop it before there's any type of, and we would like to make sure that given your proximity to Zone 2, and again, you did a wonderful job in terms of design, keeping it out of that area and moving it away as far away as you can with this site, and that's applauded, but it is still close there, and we all know that as you've talked about, these soils are, things move through them very, very quickly and very freely. So obviously, efforts can be made to just make sure that in the event, in the hopefully very unlikely event, that there's any sort of problem, that we have a way to keep track of it. And with that, I will defer to the board.
Question? When is this supposed to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals?
1 minute, please. Is it the 26th? That will be January 26th.
Do we meet previous to that? No, right?
Other
Do
than
we have a
us,
full meeting previous to that? No.
we do not.
you have a joint meeting for another topic with the other
That's
boards.
Tuesday, we're not going to have an opportunity
Right.
to do that. Do I have a motion from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion to
Please, Ms.
recommend to the ZBA that it be approved subject to satisfaction of all the engineering comments.
Okay, I have a motion to approve, subject to recommend approval, subject to all engineering. Do I have a second?
I'm looking, before we do that, were there any other conditions, yes, the conditions in the staff report, conditions 1 through 6, as well as all engineering comments?
We had some other recommendations from this board. Do we want to add those, such as the addition of at least some further monitoring and pedestrian safety measures, bollards or similar type?
Additional signage, additional striping, a lot of things that we discussed.
Yeah. Ms. Lind or Mr. Silvera, do you have that list?
Mr. Smith had also suggested a crosswalk on the south portion.
Right, additional striping for crosswalks, yes. So, Mr. Bennett, will you amend your motion to include the recommendations as enumerated by this board?
So amended.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor? All opposed? All abstaining? And I'm abstaining, only on the grounds that I don't have the information from engineering that I feel we need to make an informed recommendation to you, not a commentary on your presentation.
Great.
Thank you very much. Good luck at the ZBA.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you very much for your presentations. Greatly appreciated. Next on our agenda this evening, I have the update on the Plymouth Comprehensive Plan. So we'll start with, we're calling it the Plymouth Comprehensive Plan. We've been calling it the Master Plan up until this point, but we are nothing if not listening to the residents. And one of the first things that the residents said is, I don't like the phrase Master Plan. And I understand that. It's a challenge because we've used the term because it's what's used in the state statutes, but nonetheless, we can refer to it as we wish in town and just simply still comply with the statute. So, engineering staff with our consultants said that the best parlance that's being used now is comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive nature actually fits very well with what we're talking about in this plan. The fact is that this plan addresses areas of Plymouth that historically have not been addressed in prior plans because they were not subject to development until the last 20 years. So it's now the Plymouth Comprehensive Plan, can be referred to as the PCP, if you are so inclined. But we had our final public forum, it was a virtual forum last Thursday, which was very well attended, and we actually had a third of the people attending were first-time attendees, people who had not attended before, which is a very good sign. Again, it shows that residents, even if they haven't been involved so far, are still remaining engaged and still putting in the time and effort. And this was a particular one that required time and effort because the goal was to have people actually review at least portions of, if not the full, draft plan before attending, and people did, and there was no question they did because the questions that were asked during this forum showed a knowledge and an understanding of what had been presented. So I want to once again commend the Master Plan Committee for all of their efforts. I want to commend staff for all of their efforts. I want to thank our consultants who I think did a terrific job. And I want to thank the residents who have continued to be engaged in this process and expressed their strong opinions regarding all of the various aspects of our community. The broad overview strokes are not surprising, I think, to anyone. the singular largest concern for the residents of Plymouth echoes national sentiments. It's affordability. That's a word that is now catching on as we speak on the federal level, but here in the local level, it has been a mantra for some time now. People are concerned about the ability to come to or stay in Plymouth. That's a real challenge, and it echoes throughout everything that we need to do, because at the same time, people want to preserve the quality of life we have here in town. They want to be able to enjoy the things that Plymouth is known for, our history, our open space and recreation, our culture, our wonderful beaches and ponds. They want to enjoy the things that Plymouth has now been starting to be known for, our restaurant scene, our music scene, the arts. So the idea of trying to balance this need to maintain our affordability through different types of land use is the big challenge that this board and other boards are going to face through our community going forward, especially as we look at the challenges of doing so with less resources coming to us from the state and federal level rather than more. So those are the challenges we'll be seeing looked at and we'll be working on with our consultants. And there will be a presentation again before this board for adoption, as well as before the other boards and committees in this town, most notably, of course, the Select Board, the COPC, and town meeting, where we'll be asking them to endorse the plan based upon, again, the fact that it is the representation of the greatest percentage of public input that this town has ever had on any singular project. That's something I'm very proud of because we started this project. This board in particular is very adamant about the desire to make sure that public comment, public input, resident participation was at the fore of everything that we did. And I think we did our very best to carry that out. We could always do more, but we can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. We brought the forums and ideas to the residents throughout the town, and those who wished to participate did. And fortunately, we did it through in-person mechanisms, online mechanisms, out at festivals and fairs, through the schools, and that got us the broadest cross-section that we possibly could get. So I want to thank everybody for all of their efforts. And obviously, if there are any questions that the board has, I'm happy to answer them on behalf of the Master Plan Committee. Well, it's the comprehensive plan, but we're still technically the Master Plan Committee because that was the name the committee was created under, and until we can officially change it, which I don't know that we will, we are the Master Plan Committee helping prepare the comprehensive plan.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mand.
Could you clarify how people can continue to comment and when the deadline for those comments is?
Absolutely. Thank you. So, as I indicated earlier, online right now is a copy of the draft plan and a comment form as well as a survey that residents can participate in. I believe that stays open till the end of the month, toward the end of the month, Ms. Lind?
It's January 25th.
January 25th, which should give, hopefully, again, people the opportunity to put in their last thoughts. Particularly at this point, we're looking for people to provide their thoughts on exactly how the plan looks from a usability standpoint. And the plan is broken up into 4 sections. First, there's the executive summary, and that's sort of the document that is public-facing, that everybody should be able to easily read through and get a sense as to what's going on in our community from a past standpoint, our current demographics, some of the challenges that we're facing, and what the community generally thought as to what they're going forward. We then have the individual sections of the plan, the ones that are required by state law, and those are identified with slightly more detailed information and cross-referencing, which is important. Then we have our implementation section, and this is the section that is going to be directed more towards our town staff and our boards and committees, essentially saying for each of the things that people have said they're interested in doing, they would like us to accomplish, what is the likelihood that we can actually accomplish some of these things? Because honestly, there are always things that we would love to do, but realism gets in the way. We would treat a plan very differently if there were unlimited resources. But we're looking at those things that we can accomplish, both with financially and legally, versus those things, for example, that we may wish to accomplish, but we are not within our control, and hopefully can use our influence with the state or others to try and help accomplish that and guide them to do things in a way that work best for us. It assigns the responsibilities, who has to be involved in this, and for the first time, it also talks about what other things have to happen in order to accomplish these things. So, for instance, when we talk about housing, we talk about what needs to happen with respect to housing, but it also addresses, well, how that impacts our open space, how that impacts our historic districts, how that impacts other parts of our economy. And so there's things that we look at when we say, in order to do A, you also need to do 1, 2, and 3. And those are important things because none of this happens in a vacuum. And our last plan did not address that. And so that's part of the issue, that this plan is designed as best as possible to show that this is a holistic plan. When something happens, it has to happen on a town-wide basis. It's not one group saying, oh, I'm going to go forward. It's not like somebody turns around and says to the planning department, you do this. The answer is, okay, planning department, if this is the goal that you want to accomplish, we also need to have the town managers, and we need to have these 3 boards and these 4 committees all get involved and do things that work towards that goal. So I'm excited to see what the final product looks like, and I'm more excited to see the town start taking its first steps to achieve these goals. Anything else from the board? Great. Last on our agenda for this evening, discussion of planning board plans, policies. There's a specific policy that was put in your packets. We can start with that, and then I'd like to, after that, turn it over to staff to talk. So in your packets was a document referred to as the Policy and Procedures Handbook. We had been asked for some time to provide this by the Select Board and the Town Manager's Office. They've been saying, what do you do? How does the Planning Board work? How does it function? What are its requirements? What are its... And it's just been something that's been sitting that we've taken some time to get there, but now we've gotten there. So for everyone's edification, this document is merely a recitation of what we currently do. There is no changes, there's no new proposals, there's no new approaches to things. It is a reflection of what we do. The goal being that we adopt this so that, again, much like we've done with our other policies, like our public comment policy and our submissions policy, that the community understands when we're doing things, why we're doing things, and can look to a document to understand in advance as we sit here today and go, why is this happening? How do they approach these things? I'm going to go ahead and appear before the planning board. What's likely to happen? What am I going to face? So that's what the focus of this document was. With that, I open it up for discussion. At this point, I'll just ask anyone to show of hands. Do you have questions or comments? We can, if you'd like. I'm perfectly fine with that. It's presented. We can certainly put it on the agenda for a vote at our next full meeting. I don't have a problem with that. Okay, so staff will, let's put the Policy and Procedures Handbook on the agenda for next full agenda for a vote. Comments, obviously still and subject to change, but for a vote expected at that point. And just so everyone knows, there will be more of these documents coming. So for example, one of the things that's referenced in here is a code of conduct. And that's something that's a little bit more challenging. And I'm just so everyone knows, this document that you've seen has gone through town staff, through our staff, it's gone through the town manager's office, and it's gone through town council's office. So everything in there is recognized as being consistent with what we're required to do by state law and by town charter and bylaws. But we do make a reference to a code of conduct, and I've been working on a draft with town council regarding that, and to work with the town manager's office as well, because one of the things that we've had to deal with in the past is how do we address complaints that are referred to this board. And we don't have a process for that. We don't have a defined process, and I think that it would be helpful for everyone if we did. So I'm going to put that out there again for discussion. This is not an imprimatur. This is not something that's being dictated to us, but rather for our discussion and for our analysis. The goal being, again, so that there is pure transparency, so that everyone knows what to expect under the circumstances. So, Mr. Donaldson.
So whatever the board comes up with, this is also have to be, would be approval from the selectmen, or it's going into town bylaws? Or?
No, this is our policies and procedures. We vote on our policies and procedures. We can change them at any time that we like, but this is how we, other than the few things that are dictated by state law, we are given full discretion as an elected body to determine how we wish to operate. We decide, for example, we do not have to have public comment on anything other than certain proposals that come before us. Nonetheless, we have a policy and a practice of opening up to public comment on pretty much everything other than our own policies and procedures and our appointments. That is our own practice, and that's something that, again, has been written down in this handbook.
Well, if I may interject on just
Please.
one thing. When we are the adjudicatory board, there is public comment.
Right, that's when it's mandatory.
That's when it's mandatory.
Right, when it is mandatory, we have to do it. When it is not mandatory, we may elect to do it. We have a practice of doing it. We
That's
can
right.
change that practice at any time that we wish, but right now, that is our practice, and therefore, that's what's written down in the proposed handbook.
So back to the code of conduct.
Yes.
You're working on that language?
Yes.
Currently?
Yes.
Okay.
And that should be, again, I want to just make sure as we go through that, to the extent that we are required or trying to coordinate with the town manager's office in terms of their procedures, we do have, because we do have instances, obviously, in which we have boards and committees that we oversee that have appointees from other bodies. So we want to make sure that those other bodies are comfortable with our handling adjudication, if that is the case, or if they prefer to handle adjudication themselves. So it's, again, not something that's being dictated, but rather discussed. Mr. Band.
Mr. Chair, the material sent to us included not an extensive, but a foray into larger policy review by this board and the planning department from Ms. Lynn. For example, just one example, ending automatic referral of ZB applications to the planning board and things like that. And I think those are very important issues. I can understand Ms. Lynn, as the new director of planning, wanting to just create a more effective, within her experience, believing that she can create a more effective, efficient process and boards that are more responsive to the citizens' concerns, a variety of things. So the notion of, I see this as an opportunity, but not a short-term opportunity. That is, deciding what we're going to do in terms of our policy, I think should be an ongoing process. I think we should almost discuss it at every meeting, if possible, because there are many, many issues she raised about various ways that we function in general. Like, for example, today, this evening, we had what could have been something that under a policy change where things that are going to be decided by the ZBA go directly to them without our input. But if you were to look at this seemingly simple gas station and see the real complexity of it and all the different ways it affects the area, the community, and potentially the public's concerns, it would be something that shouldn't be, in my opinion, just sent directly to ZBA without our input and insight. The question might be, why doesn't the ZBA reflect more on what we provide to them in terms of details and conditions and things like that? Anyway, just in general, I'm hoping that this is an opportunity to discuss a variety of these policy issues and structural issues or process issues. And that seemed to be what I thought we were moving toward with Ms. Lynn, but...
It is, if you'd let me get to the next item on the agenda. You just sort of jumped ahead a little bit, but yes, that's absolutely the case. We were going to have next a presentation by staff regarding some of the issues that have been raised. But addressing your last comment, and I appreciate that. The fact of the matter is, we spend a lot of time as a board going through a lot of these proposals that go to the ZBA. But for example, what we saw tonight was we didn't get complete information. We didn't get full diagrams. We didn't get engineering reports. And the simple fact of the matter is we don't get them because the ZBA doesn't consider our opinions to be of that necessarily important, that they're insisting that we get them before they act. We spent a lot of time recently regarding a proposal for housing right on Court Street. And we went through, we did a detailed analysis, we spent quite a bit of time with the developer, we spent quite a bit of time with the residents, we crafted some really good suggestions to make that program as good as we possibly could, and it went to the ZBA and they basically said, that's nice, and did not adopt a single thing that we said. So, there is a question that goes to a larger standpoint, and a larger issue, which is what is the role of the planning board? And honestly, should that be something that we consider as a board proposing to town meeting as a change to the bylaws as to what our role should be? And I agree with you wholeheartedly that that is an important discussion, and that's one we should undertake. And it's not one that I would suggest as part of a meeting, but rather at least a full meeting, if not several full meetings, where we discuss that and we go through individualized bylaw sections that address what our role is and decide, is our role appropriate given the changes over the years as to what we should and shouldn't be looking at. But, so I appreciate your sentiment. I support it wholeheartedly, but let's get to the reason for that, which was that there's been the beginnings of some review by staff, so.
Can I move the question? Seriously.
There's no question. Ms. Lynn.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time. As a background, I just want to say, as coming into new director and having another new deputy director at my side, which has been a great opportunity to take a look at things with a fresh pair of eyes, what we're doing for all of our department policies, whether it's staff level, the way we handle applications and processes, and looking at the various boards and committees that we staff, there's somewhere between, I want to say, I don't know, around 15 boards and committees that the Department of Planning and Development supports. So we are doing an inventory of what those policies, procedures are. You can imagine that even the planning board alone has many policies, some of which haven't been updated in years. So right now, we're taking a look at things like this. We're also looking at the zoning bylaw to take a look at what needs to be updated, what is perhaps missing, what things should be modified. So this memo really to you is supposed to be a starting point to have a dialogue about policy and updating things so that we can, in addition to updating things for legal compliance with maybe state laws that have changed or zoning bylaws that have been updated, that now our policies are outdated. For example, even something as simple as references to zoning bylaw sections that aren't there anymore or have been recodified and should be updated to where they currently are. But also taking a look at how we can look at things more efficiently and make effective use of people's times. Something that we continue to discuss is economic development, and one of those things which seems to be sort of a low-hanging fruit, is how can we reduce barriers for permitting for some of the uses and projects that are coming before us? So the first item on the memo that I've flagged for you really is I would like some direction from this board, and that is the application review policy with the Zoning Board of Appeals. When I first got to town and heard that every single Zoning Board of Appeal application came to the planning board for an advisory opinion, my question was why? That's not a standard practice across land use planning in this state. And sort of the response I got was, well, that's what we've always done. It's just a past practice. And so I am questioning the board on the efficacy of this because, first of all, it's not written in the zoning bylaws and it's not written in a policy. And there was a change to the zoning bylaw somewhere in, was it 2008? 2018 that modified the section of the bylaw that referred to this policy. So right now as it stands, this practice is inconsistent with our written policy and bylaws. That said, it also adds a layer of confusion for applicants and the general public because it's not like it's a site plan review. It's not like we have specific criteria that you're looking at and you're issuing a decision on something like a site plan review. It's an advisory opinion. The next board, which is the special permit granting authority, can take it or leave it. And in scenarios where you spend a substantial amount of time, I mean, for example, you had a case before you that you just referenced. We spent almost 3 hours with this board and the public, listening to public comment and crafting some conditions for consideration, many of which, if not all of the ones that you requested, were just put to the side. So from a efficiency standpoint, it's all of your time, it's staff time, it's the time of the applicant, and it's the time of the members of the public who are coming out and voicing concerns that then they have to go to another hearing and start all over again. So, you know, in the interest of maintaining, you know, compliance with what's our written policies and regulations and our bylaws, but also what is the most effective use of everyone's time. So my recommendation moving forward is that we stop the practice of referring all of the zoning board applications to this board and then look at what is an effective use of that time. I think looking at our site plan review guidelines, right now the section in our zoning bylaw, it really does not outline what site plan review standards are. The exemptions for site plan review under our bylaw, the following are exempt: use or structure which a special permit or variance has been obtained, and single and two-family dwellings, including new construction, alteration, addition, and signs. If you look at the advisory opinion of this planning board, it essentially is a site plan review without being correctly codified and without having parameters in place for which you should be reviewing those. Those items, I mean, single and two-family dwellings, like porch additions and things like that on a non-conforming home, it's really not necessary to have this much level of scrutiny. It's a barrier to the applicants. Some of them are simple homeowners, and they don't have, you know, the legal representation, or those that do are then paying to have these staff come to multiple meetings, and that can be a very expensive. So, you know, for small homeowners and even for small businesses, for example, we had a delicatessen shop come before you because it was a non-conforming use, and another non-conforming use coming in, they had to come here and represent themselves for really not much, but they had to do that twice, for this board and for the zoning board. So I think this is an opportunity to take a look at this and say, there might be a better way to do this. Perhaps we address this through site plan review. That would require a bylaw change, so we'd like to think in the interim, maybe we can have a written policy that the board could use to have some parameters between now and the next opportunity to bring forward a bylaw change, which would be October town meeting. But we're also not suggesting that we're adding additional layers of complexity to things that are by right uses. We don't want to continue to add and hinder economic development. That said, I do think that there are some uses, particularly special permits, things that site plan review has merit and would give this board more directive to have a say in the development site, and then leave the uses to, if it's the zoning board of appeals, let them deal with the use of that. So that's really sort of my takeaway of the memo for the advisory report. So I'd like your feedback on that tonight. And then the other things I flagged for you, it kind of segues into site plan review. We need to address that, as that's going to require more work, and to come back to you with a written policy on that. But looking at things like site design, parking, circulation, I mean, there's criteria that we can easily give you, whether it's state law really does not define site plan review. It really is a local case-by-case basis, but we can give you some recommendations as to how other communities do that and how you might address that. But I certainly think that this board should look into addressing that. I think that if we move forward with eliminating some of these advisory reports that are automatically referred and channel this to a site plan review, this will free up some time to focus on things that really the board can have a say in, but also free up some time in your agenda to tackle some of these larger policy discussions that we know are needed, and to talk about things like comprehensive plan implementation. There's going to be a lot of work that comes out of this comprehensive plan, and we're going to need the board's input on that. So that can be an opportunity to talk about things like that. And then zoning bylaw updates. You know, I'd like to say this is an opportunity for the board to pivot in being more of a proactive planning group than having to react to everything that's coming before the zoning board and then moving along the course. The other things I flag in this memo, the village steering committee policy, this is an example of policies that are just simply referencing outdated sections of the zoning bylaw. If you look at those sections, they either don't exist or they've been moved. So we need to update this policy. But I think that updating this policy also opens the door to, are there any other modifications to be made at that level? I know we've discussed at a high level the concept of a regional advisory committee, and the thought there is that there are areas in town and residents in town that don't fall in the village, in a village center, but they want to have a say in what goes on. They want to be involved. So is this an opportunity to rethink how we're doing village steering committees? I leave that to the board. That's a policy decision. But as we think about updating this policy, it might be the time to discuss that. And then last is just the note that there's many planning board practices, regulations, things that we are taking a look at that we plan to bring forward for you. So if there's anything particularly on your radar that you'd like to address to us, we'll be looking for some guidance on prioritizing, because there's a lot at once. And you know, right now we're sort of casting a wide net and then trying to identify what are pressing items. I keep on saying to everyone at this point, with new management in this department, it's an exciting time to be here, but there's also a lot of people in sort of every avenue coming out and saying, these are things that are priorities that we'd like you to address. And there's, in the realm of reality, there's only so much staff capacity and time that we have to do that. So what I've been telling people is that we hear you, it's on our radar. We do need, you know, town manager, select board, planning board to give us their priority items, and we will tackle those as we can, because right now we need to keep the trains moving on schedule and on the tracks while we also try to repair the tracks. So with that, I thank you for allowing me this time to share my thoughts with you, and I look forward to your feedback.
Thank you, Ms. Lind. So I think it's difficult for us at this point to just jump in and really say, oh, these are our priorities, this is what, there are many, many things, and we've all run into some of them, and through our experiences, there are smaller things that we probably can address more simply. Parking requirements for storage facilities, which we have run into repeatedly, where we have giant oceans of pavement for no apparent reason. Something like that. That's an easy one. We have some things that are a little more complicated, like getting our, what we still call our aged home bylaw, which is not in state compliance, in state compliance. And the fact that we can't really do much in the way of permitting of senior complexes based on our current bylaw. That's going to take a little more work, but it is something we probably need to do, given the fact that those are still going to continue to show up here. So I think as we start looking at the comprehensive plan and what we're going to work on there, and then sort of the smaller aspects, we can all discuss those and come up with some lists and start going through. Again, I think this board will be very happy with the idea of digging into the comprehensive plan and starting by saying, this is what the residents have told us they want us to look at, and we should start working on those types of things. Because there are going to be zoning changes that we need to work on for housing, for commercial, economic development. We're obviously starting with one of the housing ones that we have. We have the Earth Removal Bylaw Committee has its first meeting tomorrow, And that'll be part of what will ultimately come to this board for its review and its analysis and final recommendations to town meeting. So we have all sorts of things that we want to look at. So I think to some degree, as you and Mr. Silvera go through the bylaws and come up with the things that you see are more likely than not to create roadblocks for us, those would be the ones we'd like to hear about and can then comment on whether or not we think that's something we want to address short-term, long-term, how we want to go about doing that. But I'll also open it up to other members of the board for their thoughts and comments. Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is pretty refreshing to see. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I've actually been on the other side of the lectern here many times, and probably in front of somewhere between 15 and 30 other planning boards in Massachusetts. And the fact that every single ZBA application gets an additional hearing before the planning board, I find absurd. I think you're absolutely right that that's unnecessary for the planning board to be reviewing a single house lot setback requirement. That is the purview of the ZBA. I don't understand actually what planning goes into that. So I think that, and I also will say that adding another hearing to an applicant who is, if they're hiring representation, whether it be engineering, lawyers, or whatever, absolute minimum, it costs them another $1,000 for their project. The absolute minimum, probably more in the $3,000 range, depending if they have attorneys on board as well. So I think that's an undue burden on the residents. Somebody wants an addition that's, on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. It's pretty straightforward. I think we handle those fairly quickly and easily, but I don't think they're really our business as far as from a planning perspective. Zoning Board of Appeals, that's what they do. That's what they're there for. So that additional layer, I've never understood how that came about. Early in my career, I was rather shocked by it. I've never experienced it in any other town. Not that I've been in every town in front of every planning board, but several. So I'm totally on board with looking at a threshold, and you mentioned single-family, multifamily, or two-family, perhaps might be inappropriate, but I think I'd probably like to see and have some discussion about what that threshold would be, that they don't get referred to the planning board for an advisory review. And I will share also that I have been before the Plymouth Planning Board as an applicant or as representing an applicant and had a unanimous approval recommendation from the planning board and been denied by the Zoning Board of Appeals. And conversely, I have had a unanimous recommendation, or maybe not unanimous, but a recommendation not to approve to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I got the permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals, leading me to think that what's the point? It certainly seems redundant. So I am in total agreement with the certainly beginning of your memo, and I really haven't read the entire thing, but I read that part, and that got me interested. As far as the site plan review, I don't think I'm really prepared to speak to that quite yet. I think I'd like to kind of look at it a little more and certainly have a look at more what your recommendations. I do think that the village steering committee policy needs some work. I started my political career, if you will, on a steering committee, and it was really confusing to know exactly why they're there. When I requested appointment to it, it was because they were advisory to the planning board, which is where my interests lie. The actual operation of the steering committee really didn't have much to do with the planning board, and really they were only advisory in the case of a commercial zoning application. So I think that needs a serious look at, and perhaps some guidance to the steering committees, what their actual role is, because from my understanding, and I could very well be wrong, is their role is to advise the planning board in cases of commercial site planning and commercial zoning applications. So I am in complete agreement with that the village steering committee, and don't get me wrong, I totally agree with the fact, the need to have village steering committees. But I think that we need to have a little more communication with them, both ways. But, my impression is that there should be our conduit to the residents, not that the residents can't come directly to us, but we don't have an open comment section of our meetings like the select board do. So I think that the avenue for that is through the steering committees. So I think that means my time is up, right? Is that I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Mand?
No, I think there are, I'm sorry, did you say Mr. Mann?
I did.
There are many issues that deserve review in the application. Site plan review is definitely one of them. Moving perhaps from this knee-jerk ZBA double meetings to something that is based on, I like the word thresholds, on impacts that potentially, or let me see, I wrote some notes down here. Projects exceeding a defined disturbance threshold, or projects within or affecting priority habitat, watershed, or aquifer areas, projects triggering site plan review standards. So criteria that indicate what the, whether or not the planning board gets involved in a review, even if the zoning board of appeals is going to apply. I think it's a worthwhile process, if just to give the public that opportunity to have that fuller discussion. I have to say that I don't attend a lot of ZBA meetings, and I'm surprised that they don't, maybe redundantly, but approach some of the same criteria. And why they abandon or disregard or are indifferent to what we do is lost on me. And I think somehow that impact or that credibility has to be has to happen, has to be considered. So I think there's a whole lot of things to discuss, and as someone else said, that we can't go into it all right here, right now, but I'm really glad for the opportunity that this change is creating to discuss all these elements and the way we function and how effective we are, and to do a better job there. I think we want to be, I think, at best, representative of the community's concerns, and sometimes the process that we have doesn't allow that. And hoping that we can refine things to that degree so we can be a more effective board, more representational of the town's concerns. Where's the cricket sound?
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mand. Mr. Grandy?
Okay. As a senior member here, I've been doing this for a few years, right? I'm going to say, like the hearing we had tonight, which is going before the ZBA, a lot of great suggestions and comments came from the members of this board that are elected officials, not appointed. This is an elected board, okay? And the public wants the planning board to put input on particular projects, not to encroach on a residential, like 8-foot setback scenarios. Yes, that shouldn't be coming before us, because what are the implications other than costing the proponent funds and money and time? And I do believe we need to streamline this process a bit, but there are going to be thresholds like Mr. Mann brought up. And I think I can give an example again of a different community. If a residential home was to be built at 5,000 square foot coverage, of somewhere in that vicinity, then the planning board would need to review that particular project. So whatever Hingham has different language, obviously, than Plymouth does, but that's just an example. We've got to find out what exactly we need to see as far as anything along those lines are concerned, right? Now, I was also on a steering committee. There are a lot of things the steering committee does outside of just advising the planning board. They get involved with the residents, the businesses, and et cetera for every single village. This is a big town, and we have a lot of villages, and each village is a little bit different than, North Plymouth is different than Manaman, or Cedarville. They're just different because of the age groups, the houses that were built, the time frames that they went into place. And I think it's important that the steering committee stay involved with the planning process, but it needs to be streamlined a little bit as far as the steering committees are concerned. I think it's very important that the planning board continues to review projects that meet a certain threshold, which we need to have a discussion about, and go through a list of different examples before we rush into saying, I think the language you hear, it said is, going forward, you will not be bringing things to the planning board. But that's not the case yet, because we haven't decided that that's the case, correct?
I did say pending board discussion.
Yeah, right.
So the question I have for you then is, under what criteria do you want to move forward? Because I don't have a written policy. It's just been
So that's something we
past
need to
practice.
work on as far as between the members here, and maybe schedule a meeting that's, instead of at 9:15 at night discussing it, we started from the beginning and we just hash down and work out through these things through discussions, right? And when we change in a policy, we don't want to hear other input from, we have a Board of Selectmen member sitting in the audience, and an open discussion about it, and make sure we're going about it the right way. I want to streamline it, and I agree with it. We just got to do it the right way. We are elected officials, so we should be reviewing some of these issues that we're discussing. And I, being a member with different boards, sent things to zoning boards where they approve the whole thing, partial amounts of it, or not at all, or every suggestion the planning board met. It doesn't happen all the time that the zoning board just says, those guys are nuts, we'll just cancel everything that they suggest. That's not the intent of the zoning board, and they don't do that purposely. They just look through it, and they're concise in their decisions, and they look at the total picture of that particular project. We're only advisory, like the steering committees are advisory to us. I used to be very strong as far as every single special permit was a policy that we did that went to a steering committee. In certain steering committees, I'll give you an example, the Little Sandy Pond Campground doesn't fall within the Cedarville Village Center. But they went to the Cedarville Steering Committee for an advisory report to the planning board for that convenience store at the Little Sandy Pond Campground. So some of these steering committees are actually going outside of the parameters, but there's nobody else that has South Plymouth. So that's just an example. Sorry, I'm taking too much time. I'm the one I always want to go short. So I will stop at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Grandi. Mr. Donaldson?
I believe in change. I'm happy to hear that we can move forward with some changes. Planning is also part of change. And so I think that if we, again, what everyone else saying, we can streamline some of these things. And sometimes I've been sitting here, I'm like, okay, like, why isn't this at zoning and why are we dealing with it? And when I first came to Plymouth, that was the key phrase, is just the way that we've always done it. And it's like nails on a chalkboard for me when I hear it. So whatever from me and this board that you need, don't mean to speak for everybody else, but for me, you'll have our support in what we need to make this happen, because our purpose is to make this better and leave it better than when we found it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. Thoughts, Mr. Smith?
Just briefly, I'm very encouraged and very excited about the potential changes here. I think from what I've heard, things have been run the same way for quite some time, and it's always a good idea to look at the process and look for changes, improvements, and I think we're starting to make an effort to do that. So congratulations, and I think the board will be better for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. That's the end of our agenda for the evening. Anything further from members of the board? Okay, just a reminder, we have a joint meeting with the Select Board and the Plymouth Foundation on Tuesday. I will be remote for that meeting. Anyone else can't make it, that's understandable. That was scheduled without really a lot of advance notice to us. Obviously, anyone else attending remotely, that's fine as well. What we understand the focus to be will be on economic development and how that is going to impact planning going forward. If there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Carl Beach, you, Mr. Grandy?
Hit me. Second.
All in favor? Thank you. This meeting's adjourned.
Recording stopped.